Isn't the crypto market just so much fun? This wild roller coaster of ups and downs, like what we experienced yesterday with the gigantic pump and what we're experiencing today with the giant dump. Really lots of fun, especially when most of your money is involved. This is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake. This is not financial advice. Today, we're going to do a broad crypto market overview looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right in to the crypto fear and greed index. We are currently at 15 in extreme fear. Brutal, just brutal. And you can see over on the right that we tend to not spend a lot of time in extreme fear. We actually spend most of our time in fear. Isn't that nice? But I guess if you were to add greed and extreme greed together, it would add up to close to fear. But you can see we spend a lot of our time not enjoying the market. So what can we expect going forward? Are we going to be able to follow the thesis that I've laid out in my previous videos, or are we maybe deviating from that thesis? Let's take a look. So we have Bitcoin on the daily chart. Notice that our Gaussian channel has flipped red. It flipped red on February 25th. That is typically a sign of a change in trend. Now, on the daily time frame, the Gaussian channel is quite pliable. You could have a very short amount of red. As you could see here back in May of 2024, it doesn't last for very long. You can also have a more prolonged period of red. Which one are we going to get? Well, I can't really tell you that. You have to see the data. But right now, this trend is not looking particularly encouraging. Looking at price action, trying to get to that red Gaussian, whenever you get an attempt like this early on in a red Gaussian channel, it's usually unsuccessful, especially after a long leg up like that. You could even refer to that as like somewhat of a dead cat bounce. So this is not looking particularly great on the daily time frame. If we zoom in on the moving averages, we can see we had a death cross of the 100 day and 200 day moving average on January 8th. This is the whole moving average, or January 9th, not the simple moving average. We're nearly 2 months removed from that. Now, remember, I told you it takes on average between 1 and 3 months to get back over the 200 day when you fall beneath it in this way under this kind of configuration. It has been almost 2 months. It can go for as long as 3 if we look at historical patterns. I have a double top, right? And that's a very bearish chart formation. Found a little bit of support down here. We had quite a wick down to the previous breakout lows around 78K, or breakout highs from back here. Could we potentially revisit that? That's a good question. I really don't know. So just looking at the metrics here, we had a very clean rejection at the 100-day HMA. This is our third attempt to get back above it, and a very harsh rejection that even took us beneath the 50-day. This is a very, very clear bearish trend. And there's multiple ways you can see that. One of those ways would be to pull up the Williams alligator. This is an indicator that's very easy to understand when you're looking at it in the context of the greater TA. The alligator is asleep. So bearish trend until proven otherwise. We had the alligator awake, sorry, we don't call this asleep. Alligator awake, alligator asleep is right here, the neutral trend. And now the alligator would be said to be like underwater. Not dead, because, alligators don't resurrect. But this looks bearish. Could we take out the low of 78K? I think it's possible. I don't think it has to happen, but I do think it's possible. We should probably zoom out and take a look at higher time frame Bitcoin to get an idea of how likely it is that we could take out this low. Because back when we made the low of 89K, many people thought the downtrend was over, but only to come back again. This actually looks very similar to the ETH Bitcoin distribution phase. If you go back, I do want to look at ETH Bitcoin later, but if you want to compare it to something, let's go ahead and look at ETH Bitcoin back in 2022. Not on the daily time frame, ideally on the weekly time frame, which is fine because I need to go to the weekly time frame for Bitcoin anyways. And you can see what happened in 2022. We had a top by ETH Bitcoin, then a drop, then another top, and then it just kind of bled all the way down. Now, do I think that's about to happen with Bitcoin? I don't think we're going to enter into like a super long bleed for Bitcoin that lasts for years and years, because this is a much smaller version of it. But could we see something like that play out on a smaller time frame? Absolutely, that could happen. So this is the alligator on the weekly. And so on the weekly, we can see the green, which is the, I always forget what's what on the alligator. I think this is the mouth of the alligator, and it's about to cross with the teeth and the jaw. You know, we had the alligator asleep for a good half of a year already. Are we about to head into another period where the alligator is sleeping, or worse, the alligator turns down? I guess we'll just have to like look at some other indicators to see if that's like. Let's start with the moving averages. So not looking good, right? Like the 20-week moving average has death crossed with the 50. It looks like it's about to death cross with the 100. The 50-week looks like it's also getting ready to turn down and possibly death cross as well. I can't say that for sure. It doesn't have to, but we can say that the 20 is very likely to death cross with the 100. The 200-week whole moving average held on its first test at 78.7K. It also held on its test here at 49K. It held on its test here, 53K. It's only been tested 3 times, but I'm not really enjoying that this just keeps getting tested. Hopefully it holds, right, on the next test should it occur. Hopefully it doesn't even have to test again. The Gaussian channel has been widening. Okay, it has been kind of going between concave up and down, but it's been widening to kind of account for this enhanced volatility. So this doesn't really inspire confidence, this rejection at the 100-week, right? We're getting a lot of rejections, and that's not really what you want to see. After a really nice looking candle last week, kind of got invalidated on the candle of this week. Now, of course, this week is young. Things could change. This candle doesn't have to close like this, but we can only go off the data that we have, and that data is saying to be cautious. Let's go ahead and turn on the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band and see kind of where we're at with that. Looks like I'll have to pull that up off of here. Thought I had one open, but I must have closed it. That's okay. So weighted Bollinger Band, yeah, not looking good, right? Like, so this is starting to tighten and squeeze with price action curling down. So the best case scenario I think we could probably hope for is some kind of ranging. I don't think that the ranging would necessarily have to take like half a year, but it could take a little while, right, to play out if that's what's coming. Again, we don't have a weekly close yet. We just barely opened the week yesterday, so a lot of things can happen between now and then. But you can see that the Bollinger Bands are starting to tighten, and that could be a little bit of an issue, indicating that we could have some bigger volatility coming on a weekly time frame. And so I'm not really confident right now. I'm not super confident that 78,500 is the bottom. This actually reduces my confidence of that, seeing this graph. On the 2-week, we can see things are, you know, in fact, right now we are right at the median line of this Bollinger Band, and you can see that we did have to go underneath it for a little while last year. We may have to do something like that again. I would say that my base case is that we do something like that, so that we do kind of spend some time beneath it. Again, I'm not sure if we'll take this low out or not, but I'm certainly not inspired by the way this looks. If we were to look, you know, I'm trying not to go for too long on this video because I have other assets I need to cover, but Bitcoin being probably the most important. If we looked at the let me pull up Bitcoin on Coinbase so I can look at this metric. Okay, so on Coinbase, I want to look at the oscillator volume profile trendoscope. Here's the wave trend too, which is another useful thing. So on the 2-week, Bitcoin was at its most oversold in January of 2021. It got pretty oversold in February of 2024, and then had a secondary peak in March 2024. That would have been our cycle top. Another peak in January 2025, and it just looks like it wants to head back down, doesn't it? Now, is this a bullish divergence that's going to be sustained? It could be. This wave trend, is it going to create a higher low? It could, right? We don't know that yet. So I would be open-minded to a little bit of bullishness there. If we go to the weekly, you know, maybe get a little more clarity. Look at how we had this double bottom in July of 2024 on oversold, and then on overbought, we had a double top. So it's natural to think that this could come all the way down to the bottom of the range. Wave trend is very red at the moment, heading down. So I think what the most likely outcome is, I don't really see Bitcoin having any more like extremely volatile drops like this one here anytime like super soon. I'm not saying one couldn't happen, but I'm thinking more kind of like what we experienced here or what we experienced here. So some ranging. Okay, this ranging could take a few months. It could take a little while, but I think that's what's likely to happen. Ranging with a macro high or low. I don't think we'll take out this range here. I don't think we're about to head into like a bear market. It's something I talked about in my last video as a possibility that we could get like a bear leg for a while. But to be quite honest, this just looks like an extended 2017 bull move. So I feel like the structure is likely to hold. I think we could see the maybe we range for a few months. We could range into maybe the late spring, early summer, and just kind of look at this period as a winter lull. And then I think we'll get the next leg up of our bull market. That's kind of what my base case is. And I won't shift that base case unless there's a reason to. What would cause me to shift that base case would be if we were to take out these lows right here, right? I'm sorry, if we were to take out this structure right in here. I made this rectangle bigger than it needs to be, right? More something like that. Like if we were to break structure and break down here, then I would be worried. But as long as we can stay above the range that we created back in 2024, which I think we will, then I think we can get another leg up later this year. If I had to guess, it would probably be late spring, early summer when we see Bitcoin probably have a chance at going to a new all-time high. That's kind of my thought, that we need to range for a little bit longer. It's frustrating. I know it is, but that's just how it is. And there are some other things that need to happen in the meantime as well. So if we go to Bitcoin dominance and look at Bitcoin dominance on the weekly time frame, it's still in a bull market. I thought it wasn't back in January, but I was wrong. It is still very much in a bull market. Look at that tight Gaussian channel on the weekly. It's only touched it once. I think that Bitcoin dominance's bull market is coming to an end. I don't think it's going to last that much longer, but we could see Bitcoin dominance test maybe 63% level. Could even test the 786 fib again if it wanted to. It had an unsuccessful test there before, but it could certainly do it again. If you look at Bitcoin dominance on the 2-week, this is clearly showing you the market is risk off right now. Look at it's in the upper quadrant of its Bollinger Band. It looks strong, and look at that really tight Gaussian channel. Like it's as tight as it's going to be. Like looks beautiful, right? Not beautiful if you're holding anything other than Bitcoin, which I am personally. So I'm feeling the pain right there with you. You can be confident that I am. But I think that Bitcoin dominance is really near topping. Honestly, I thought it would top by now, but it just seems like this Bitcoin dominance bull market wants to go on for longer. We could see this bull market where Bitcoin dominance lasts for the whole first half of the year. I don't think it will endure the entirety of 2025. I think the back half of the year is going to be Ethereum dominant and not Bitcoin dominant. So I still hold to that thesis. That thesis has not changed as far as Bitcoin dominance goes. What about Ethereum Bitcoin? You guys might wonder why I look at ETH Bitcoin so closely and I don't really talk a lot about ETH USD. It's because I don't really care about ETH USD when ETH Bitcoin's in a bear market, right? Like, why would I care about ETH USD when we have ETH Bitcoin at 0.02472? We are not that far off of the lows that ETH Bitcoin created. This is do or die time for Ethereum, really. I mean, like, we're only about 5% drop away from taking out the low that was created during the crazy shakeout dump of February 3rd, right? And these are the breakout highs from 2019 or from 2020, right? So this is not really an area that we want to be spending too much time at, right? It's okay to spend some time here, but we don't want to start going down here below 0.02 because then we're taking out macro structure for ETH Bitcoin. And what happens with that kind of situation, right? This is not a good situation for Ethereum if this happens, right? And I'm not trying to fudge you guys out or anything, but like, I'm trying to draw this trend line. This is still technically an ascending trend line, right? And barely. This presents an argument. If we can hold the lows for ETH Bitcoin at 0.023, it presents a pretty compelling argument that Ethereum is an oscillator against Bitcoin. I think being an oscillator against Bitcoin means that Ethereum will have stretches of time where it drastically outperforms Bitcoin, And that's kind of what we've seen. If Ethereum breaks this structure that we have, this macro trend line that we have right now, which again, I didn't really draw this like in the best way, but if we take out this trend line and start to head lower, which is a possibility, not really my base case, but kind of hard to argue with the Bollinger Band spilling out like this, Ethereum showing like too much strength. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, but if we are to slice through and take out this low and break this trend line, there's really not much room to go down, right? Before you start to flatten out the trend line, and you're flirting like the lows here, like 0.02, wherever we're at now, 0.023, that was pretty much the range highs from November of 2019. We're already breaking structure or starting to break structure with the 2020 breakout highs, but I'm talking about like the macro lows. Like we are very close to testing the top of those. I would like to see Ethereum bottom above this if it hasn't bottomed already. Because if it goes into the macro lows from 2019, Ethereum now becomes a bleeder against Bitcoin. And there are consequences for that. Consequences for Ethereum-based altcoins, consequences for Ethereum itself. Then you basically have everything in the space, more or less, being a long-term bleeder against Bitcoin, including Ethereum. Not a situation that we want to see for the overall health and vitality of crypto. The weekly wave trend for ETH Bitcoin has just been horrible. Like it's been in the green oversold zone for so long. Like we printed 1, 2, 3 fake breakouts for ETH Bitcoin, just had another minor one. And it's like, how many are we going to have? Like the tops for ETH Bitcoin, you had 1, 2, 3 dots. The bottom, we already have 5. And none of them has resulted in the upward mean reversion that ETH Bitcoin is just so overdue for. If you look on the 2-week time frame, the story says, okay, we had, your dot in September 2020, which is a bearish divergence, 1, 2 fake bearish divergences in July and September of 2021, and then a real bearish divergence in January 2022. We now have 1 bullish divergence dot in December 2023, a second one in looks like May of 2024, a third one in December of 2024. So yeah, this has been a rough season for ETH, and I honestly thought Ethereum would have woken up by now. But like I said, as long as we can maintain this trend line, this upward trend line, this upward sloping trend line, then ETH Bitcoin is fine, and it will continue to be an oscillator most likely against Bitcoin, which is certainly what I would prefer. So it's sort of like, well, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 bullish divergence dots or bearish divergence dots. Do we get 1, 2, 3, 4 bullish divergence dots before we start to head back up? Often the bottom does rhyme with the top in certain kinds of ways. We had one bearish divergence dot back in July of 2017 and a bullish divergence dot in September of 2019. It was just 1-to-1. Of course, now things are different in the crypto space. There's more than just Ethereum. But this process really seems to be taking a while to play out. Now, once we can have a convincing bottom for ETH Bitcoin, I'm not sure. Like I said, I cannot tell you that 1.023 is the bottom. If we pull up Heiken Ashi candles, and that will allow us to kind of look at a trend. Look, the trend hasn't changed on the 2-week. All you see are just red Heiken Ashi candles with undershadows. And that's, if you look at past trends, like here's the trend in 2019, red Heiken Ashis with undershadows, right? You need to see like an indecisive candle form on like a 2-week time frame for us to feel convinced that a change in trend is taking place. Now, I do like to see that there are some indecisive candles that have formed, right? After a very clear downtrend, we got a few indecisives. We are having another red Heiken Ashi this week. I'm really hopeful that we don't get more than one more week of this. Because if this continues to go down, like I said, then ETH Bitcoin becomes a bleeder. We don't want that to happen. What about monthly candles for ETH Bitcoin? Ugly, right? So in 2019, we had 1, 2, 3, looks like 3 red monthly candles in a row for ETH Bitcoin. And now in 2025, we have 1, 2, 3 red candles already. Is March going to be another red candle? Will it touch this trend line? Or will it go below it? I don't know. Will it be an indecisive when the month closes? See, these are the things I don't have the answers to. All we can do is just look at probabilities. Look at how depressed ETH Bitcoin is. I mean, it is in the green zone for the first time ever on the monthly. It has not shown any signs of a bullish divergence yet. If we look at the ADX and DI, this is not very encouraging, right? You've got a very clear bear trend with increasing trend strength. We would like to see that this trend strength to really top out soon, because if it doesn't, ETH Bitcoin becomes a bleeder. We hope it doesn't respect this trend line, and if it does, we hope that the momentum changes to bullish, right? I would love to see the ADX continue to trend up, for the red DI to trend down. That would be a really great thing to see. Okay, you can definitely argue that these indicators are getting pretty exhausted. If we look at, for instance, let's see, what would be a good one? If you look at the Snabble RSI, that'd be probably another good one. It's probably gonna be pretty depressed. Look at the Snabble RSI. I mean, how much lower can this go? Right? Like, and this is on the monthly. So last time Snabble RSI was at levels of like 13, we got our bull market. It started. Now we're at Snabble RSI levels of 5.6. How much lower can this go? Let's look at the KZX RSI. Kind of get an idea of divergences. Okay, so for the first time ever, ETH Bitcoin is in the red zone. This is the oversold zone, and it's printing a red mountain. This has never happened before. So, I mean, everything points to bottoming happening. Like, it's pretty safe to guess that we are at a bottom or very near the bottom. Average sentiment oscillator on the monthly is almost matching levels, right? Like, let's go ahead and draw a horizontal trend line. Look at that. I mean, the average sentiment oscillator only went higher than where it is now on a bear bubble back in January 2020. There's really not much more to go up. I mean, once you go up any higher than this, you're pretty much exhausted with bearish momentum. And then the bear bubble closed very abruptly. I don't think the bear bubble will close as abruptly this time, but this was a beautiful moment for ETH Bitcoin, because this whole downtrend move that took place from January 2020, January 2022, took a 2-year period to happen. 2-year period. I'm telling you, this cycle is likely to be extended compared to past ones. I have a whole video on it. Let's just suppose that the bear bubble ended for ETH Bitcoin today. Let's just pretend. And let's pretend that ETH Bitcoin got a 2-year run, or even a 1-year run. A 1-year run with a bull bubble would take us into March of 2026. A 2-year run would take us into March of 2027. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but I think if you still believe in Ethereum the way that I do, I think that this metric has a long way to go. I think it's going to have a nice long bull market. I do not think these highs will get taken out. I'll be clear about that. But I think we can definitely see some movement, and I think it could last a while. I think it could feel sort of like the bull run that never ended, and then it will end when everybody gets used to it constantly being there. So we really need to hold these lows. We can't go too much lower and still maintain macro bullish structure for ETH Bitcoin. So March and April to me are do or die months. I would even argue this month is do or die. We have to get some Heiken Ashis that look better than what we've been seeing. Okay, so I mean, is there even a point in talking about the altcoin market when things are so depressed? I mean, like, sure, I'll go ahead and talk about it, but what do you want me to say? I mean, like, altcoins look bad. Of course they look bad. We did talk about altcoins potentially visiting Bitcoin season, right? And that's exactly what's happening. We're in Bitcoin season. That was not my base case here, right? But then we had the breakdown. We're back in Bitcoin season. We see that with Bitcoin dominance. Look at this. What's outperformed Bitcoin recently? Not much. BGB, Ohm, and a lot of these may not even currently be outperforming Bitcoin. Not much. We're in Bitcoin season yet again. Look at how many times we've been in Bitcoin season this cycle. It's been pretty depressing. We have been in Bitcoin season way more than we've been in altcoin season. However, I think this trend is about to change in the second half of this year. I thought it would change in the first half, but I have to go with the data that the market gives me. And that's just what I. Okay, so this is others, which is the crypto market cap of altcoins, excluding the top 10, the most vulnerable part of the crypto space right now. It has made that dreaded M shape that nobody likes to see. Others is currently in the lower part of its Bollinger Band on the monthly, mind you. And we can see that volatility is starting to contract. Bollinger Bands are starting to very slowly close up, and we don't need these to like squeeze tight or anything like that. The good news is we are still maintaining macro bullish structure, and I think we are likely to maintain that. Even though we're below the 618, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touch points at the 0.5 fib that have held. I think that it's very unlikely that the 0.5 fib breaks right now. Although sell volume has been increasing, I think altcoin season will probably come in the back half of this year. I think we'll still have an altcoin season. If we want to zoom in a little bit, maybe do a weekly time frame, we'll see what's going on there. You can see sort of like this cup that formed in 2023. Very nice bottoming structure, right? And now we have a slightly higher high just above the 886 fib for the lower cap altcoin market. So we really need to maintain the support levels between the 0.5 and 618 fib. And I think we will. I think it's quite likely that we will maintain those. I imagine altcoin indicators are also getting pretty exhausted if we were to look at them. And we can look at the ones we've been looking at, like wave trend. And maybe the Snabble RSI might be another good one to pull up. Snabble RSI, pretty depressed, right? We're at historical levels where we've seen bounces. Wave trend, probably putting in a slightly higher low, if I had to guess. Because honestly, like, how much lower can we go? I mean, the June 2022 crypto altcoin market bottom was, or at least first of a couple bottoms, was pretty darn low. Now, I'm not saying we just immediately go into a new uptrend. Could be a while, right? I mean, it took nearly a year to even hit the overheated region. And this was mostly on, Dino coins. But there were some like pump fund coins and things of that nature that ran up pretty hard. So I think we may have to spend a little bit of time, trudging through the mud here. I feel like the 0.5 fib level might get tested again, or it might get near it, but I think it should hold. You can see the Bollinger Band is heading down again, suggesting probably some crabbing. If we break structure and go beneath the 382, I still think there'll be an altcoin season, but I think it may not come until 2026, if that happens. Like if we start to like head down here, we have to talk about all possible outcomes. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, wave trend could come all the way down. This is a massive like shoulder, giant head, shoulder. It's possible we come all the way down and we could crab around here for a while. And then the earliest you would probably see a recovery in altcoins would be near the end of the year and maybe spilling over into 2026. Again, thinking on time frame of an extended cycle. Now, what does any of this matter if the stock market doesn't look good? How does the stock market look? Well, if we pull up the monthly, stock market has not seen a significant spill out since 2008, right? These little spill outs along the way, yeah, we've had bear markets, but for the most part, the stock market has been in a macro uptrend and is currently sitting at, relative to its 2009, I need to put the magnet on. Let's put on a weak magnet. Relative to its 2009 lows, it's sitting at roughly an 8.2x. Okay, measured move. Let's see what happened last time we had a major spill out. How high did, where were we coming from? Where did we go? So we had a series of major spill outs in the 70s. Okay, I'm talking like really major spill out. Stock market went on to put in a 22.9x. Okay, depending on, you know, this is just sideways behavior in here. I personally think the stock market will maintain its bull market structure. I think it looks good, honestly. Like on the whole, like if you pull up some moving averages, it is beneath its 20-month. That happens, right? Let's pull up the 50-month. I love the stock market because we have so much data, right? Like just so much data to look at. We're above the 50-month. We're above the 100-month. We're above the 200-month. It was really not until the dot-com bust that we rolled over for a while, right? This is like one giant accumulation phase. I don't think this stock market bull market just ends that quickly. I don't think we're about to head into a major recession right now. Are we beneath the 20-month HMA? Yes. Can that cause trouble for some time? Sure, it can. I mean, back in 2022, it caused trouble for a while. But there's been other times it's gone under. Here's 2018. You know, strangely, most of these are bear market years for Bitcoin, so it's not exactly the most comforting thing, right? But yeah, we are breaking the 20 month, and I don't know when that's, if we're going to bounce at the 50. If we break the 50 and we start going lower, then we could see, you know, yeah, it's possible Bitcoin ends up in a bear market for most of the year. That could happen. I'm not going to start to panic though, or think that until I see some sustained weakness from the stock market. I really don't know what's going to happen this month, and it may have some weakness, right? Yeah. So I would watch the stock market too, because if the stock market fails to show strength, I'll only be clear, I don't think anything like this is coming. But if things kind of roll over again, you know, the bull market could be on pause for a little while, right? And I don't know if this is going to spill over, if it's going to bounce, or what's going to happen. But like I showed you, the macro structure of the stock market's bull market does look intact. But yeah, just like I just noticed this now, so that's why I'm talking like this. But like the last time we had a death cross of the 20 and the 50 was April 2022. That was not good for crypto. But we've also had these kind of periods as well. So like this was March of 2020, not good for crypto, but crypto did really well afterwards. We had a death cross in November of 2018. Crypto, I think, had already been in a bear market for close to a year at that time. And let's see, where's the other death cross? We had a death cross in March of 2015. That was not a fun time for crypto either. Previous death cross would be November of 2011, and we did get a bear market for Bitcoin. So history has not been kind to death cross moves. I don't know yet if this is going to make a death cross with 50, but if it does this year, then yeah, the Bitcoin bull market could definitely be put on pause for a while, and we could enter into a bear market. It's possible. So we have to watch this closely. It's not my base case. Why should it be my base case? You know, there are concerning signs, though. The stock market has been overheated for a while, and it may need to cool off. So yeah, I really hate to end this video on a depressing note, but death crosses of the 20-month and 50-month have not been kind to the stock market. So could we already be entering into a period of weakness? Will this be a recession? I don't know, folks. I'm not a macroeconomic expert. I know tariffs are not good for inflation in the short term. So what's the worst case that could happen then if the stock market rolls over, right? And what happens with Bitcoin? Not good things is what happens, right? It would mean that a lot of bad things would probably happen. You would most likely see Bitcoin roll over. It will have a death cross of its 20 and 50 month. It would have a death cross of its 50 and 100 month. And Bitcoin would go in to put in some new lows, probably around $30-something thousand, if I had to guess. Bottom of its risk curve. So what's Bitcoin risk right now? Bitcoin risk at 0 is 38K. So maybe 35, 32, 35K. The 100 week right now is at, or 100 month is at, what is that, 60K. The very bottom of the channel is around 38, but looks like it's trending slightly sideways here. That's not good. Yeah, so here's kind of like, here's the thing. What we might be seeing in the Bitcoin market right now You know, this is just me kind of going off what I'm seeing in the stock market. And I take the stock market very seriously. Okay. And I know you're hearing my message go a little all over the place in this video, and I do apologize for that. But I haven't really been looking at the stock market much. And that's probably a mistake. This is 2019, right? 2019 saw us have an economic slowdown that ended in a recession. And the recession was right here. It was a 1-month recession. Had a Bitcoin only bull market, and then things just kind of didn't do a whole lot. What if, and I really hope this is not the case, but it's irresponsible to not at least consider it. What if we just had our 2019 style move, right? And this is the equivalent of it here. So this is like a 2025. And what if 2025 is not really a bull market year, and we kind of trend down to the bottom of this channel, and then in 2026, 2027, 2028, we start the bull market move up to like 400,000 or something like that? What if that's what happens? This would be a technical bear market, but it could be like a recession bear market, right? I don't know if we're in a recession. I'll never tell you if we are or we aren't, because I won't know until somebody declares it. But what if it's like a recession bear market? Okay, I'm going through the worst case so you can at least consider it as a possibility. What would you see happening in crypto? You would see people starting to flock back into stable coins. And are we seeing that? Let's go take a look. That'd be the first thing. People will be pulling their cash out of the market. Yes, we are seeing that, right? Like if you look on the weekly time frame, whoops, drawing lines again. Stablecoin dominance is above its 200-week whole moving average. This is not good for the market. This is suggesting, and I've talked about this before. Let me pull Bitcoin risk off here. I've got too many things open all at once. But this is suggesting a potential double bottom for stable coins. Okay. That is a bullish formation. The Gaussian channel for stablecoin dominance is widening and smoothing out. If stablecoins can get above the median line of the Gaussian channel in a sustained way and start to head up to the 618 fib, challenge that, go up even higher, we could see this is nothing more than just a brief trough, and stablecoins could show strength throughout 2025 and then roll over again maybe in 2026. And this could just be one giant like sideways move. None of this will be obvious until hindsight. You know, something else that has me thinking too about a potential bearish situation, honestly, is, and sorry for all these drawings. Now I have like lines everywhere. And it's like, I'm tempted to just delete it, but when I do that, it'll delete all my, there's no, I mean, like, I guess I can go into the object tree. Let me just quickly do that. This has always been a concern of mine, but this is the 2-week reverse Chande momentum oscillator. And I've spoken about this many times before, but I want to speak about it again. Every time we've seen this oscillator get above the 85 level, it has marked a significant either intermediate cycle top or major cycle top for Bitcoin. Oftentimes with 3 to 4 years passing between occurrences. Currently, sorry, oh, this drawing. Currently, this is printing a head and shoulders pattern. And we actually have just confirmed a change of trend to red on the 2-week. This just happened. I've been watching this closely. People may have taken out profits on this pump. If this starts to trend down, folks, that looks more like a bear market than a bull market. And this is something I talked about, I think, in my last video. And frankly, I don't see a way but down now that it's confirming the right shoulder. How fast does this go down, and when does it recover? Where does it bottom? I don't know the answers to that question. If Bitcoin breaks structure here, though, at this white moving average, which is currently sitting at around 80,000, right? Last stop is right here at the 400 week. 400 week is not exactly something you want to be testing in a bull market. We tested it plenty in 2019. So what if we get a period of the red Gaussian channel dominating, but not in like a dramatic way. This is, of course, on the 2-week, right? What if this green Gaussian doesn't hold and we see Bitcoin price come down much further than we think even possible? Bear market starts, or has already started, and then we pick up back up in 2026 with the bull market. And maybe this is a recession. Maybe this is a recessionary bear market we're in, and we just don't know it. We would want to look to unemployment, right? Pull up the BLS data. Well, unemployment, if we look at the moving averages on, this is on a monthly time frame, by the way, not on 2 week. Well, let's pull up the correct time frame. Unemployment has been trending up. It did print a double top and it came down, but there is this golden cross happening of the 50-month and 200-month moving average. Plus, unemployment's above the 200-month moving average. It's been above it actually since May of 2024, not long after our March top. Last time we got above it, we entered into a recession. So you have to ask yourself, is that where we're going? Sorry, I have never looked at this before. This is the RCMO for unemployment. Looking like it might roll over. So yeah, I mean, these are like, it's like, guys, I'm not going to have the answers to what's going to happen in the future, right? Not Bitstamp. I'm just an analyst who looks at data as it's presented before me and then makes inferences from that data. I mean, I don't like this. We're going red even on the monthly. Last time that happened was in 2020 where we started doing this. So I think it is possible and actually quite likely, just based on the data that I'm seeing, that despite me wanting a better outcome, that we could be in a 2019/2020 kind of situation, which you would just call maybe an extended accumulation period over multiple years. It is possible that we had a Bitcoin only bull run and that bull run is over, and that we are now heading into a lull that could last for the majority of 2025 and may not resolve until late this year or early next year. So you've heard two potential scenarios in this video. One that only looked at crypto indicators and another that took into account broader market data. And now it's up to you to decide which one you believe and then to manage your risk accordingly. Embarrassingly and personally, I'm in probably the worst situation you could be in for the latter situation or latter scenario, which is I am positioned heavily in altcoins because honestly, I didn't see this coming. And that is a scary place to be. But let's talk about some counterpoints. One of the counterpoints, and it's not a strong counterpoint when you look at the broader market, but within crypto it is ETH Bitcoin. I think in a recession, ETH Bitcoin becomes a bleeder against Bitcoin, and the bear market for ETH Bitcoin continues. But there's a lot of signs that this thing is just getting so exhausted, and it doesn't mean that it has to bounce, but it's at a long-term trend line that it doesn't visit very often. Last visit was all the way back 5 years ago in 2019, or 4.5 years ago. 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years ago in 2019. You have that to take into account, right? It's not a trend line that gets touched often. ETH has been an oscillator against Bitcoin for years. Is it about to break structure in 2025? I don't know. But obviously, a lot depends on what happens in the stock market. Is the stock market about to do something different than it's done before in the past couple decades? Like usually the death cross of a 20 and 50 month moving average is not a good thing. So I need to kind of wrap this video up and just make some conclusions. The crypto market right now is frightening. It's a scary place to be. We've seen that good news is not moving the market upwards. And when we do get an upward move like we got yesterday, it's sold off right away. That's the kind of behavior you see more in a bear market than a bull market. The first part of this video was more bullish than the second part because I had not taken into account macroeconomic data from the stock market. I had not taken into account the unemployment trend. Really thought about the tariffs as much. I mean, I've thought about them in my Telegram channel, but I hadn't really said much until here in this video. I'm bearish. And it's hard to shake that feeling. I don't know whether I should be short-term bearish or medium-term bearish, but I'm kind of leaning more towards medium-term bearish again, just like I did in my last video, only because I look at the stock market and I think, well, if the stock market's about to enter into a wind down of its own, and then we get rate cuts because of that, it might be because we're in a recession. Tariffs may have actually plunged us into one. So that's something I think we need to consider. How do you position yourself in a time like this? Well, you can follow the trends. Most people are flocking into cash and stables. If you're going to hold anything, Bitcoin seems to be the only logical thing to hold. Unfortunately, if you're holding altcoins, they could break structure. They could break bullish structure. It could happen. And that might just mean another year or more before we see them in a bull market. Some of them just won't survive. Best case scenario, the stock market does something different than what it's done before when there's been a death cross of the 20 and 50 month HMA, and somehow the bull market continues. And ETH Bitcoin has printed its macro low, and it's about to range for a little while and show some strength maybe in the summer or sooner, kind of like the first part of my video. So you'll have to decide for yourself which one you believe. It doesn't benefit me at all to be right about the latter scenario, but I'm kind of leaning more towards it as time goes on, unfortunately. So we'll see. Sorry, this was a very bearish video, ended in a really bad way, but that's just, I'm just never going to call it any other way than I see it. So if you like this video and you like the raw honesty, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Comment below if you agree with me or if you think that maybe I'm being too bearish. Provide me with some counterpoints. And subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. It's not always going to be bearish, but I'm bearish when I feel like I have a reason to be. And join my Telegram group and talk there. There's a lot of very frustrated people in there right now. And I get it. I'm frustrated too. I wish my portfolio looked better than it did, but the market always has ways of surprising us and humbling us just when we think we're figuring it out. Until next time, this is the Gaussian Snake for Crypto Simulation Theory. Hopefully, I'll have a more optimistic video next time, but I always follow the data wherever it takes me, good or bad. All right, take care.